Okay, this is just off the cuff, and I'm just doing this into the recorder on my laptop, not in my studio, so I don't want to hear anything about, hey, do something about the sound in your videos. Uh, no, this is just off the cuff, just because this fucking pisses me off. Okay. To all of my atheist friends, associates, colleagues out there, think about this. Years ago, I say a few years ago, I think it was in like 2007, there was a little girl in, I believe it was Dalton, Georgia. I know it was something with a D, but I believe it was Dalton, Georgia. She, for the 4th of July, there was to be a barbecue, cookout, as is the tradition, in the cul-de-sac of her neighborhood. And for the 4th of July, she went out in the cul-de-sac with chalk and drew a big, huge American flag on the ground. And there was an old war veteran in the neighborhood who saw that American flag on the ground and got pissed off because that's technically flag desecration. That's technically disrespectful to the flag. And so he got the law involved, and he hauled this sweet, innocent little girl in front of a courtroom in tears, and she stood there in front of a judge and took responsibility for drawing the flag, and said that she would clean it up herself. Yes, that guy did have legal standing. But there's a big difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And that alone pisses me off. But that should hopefully that context should give all of my atheist friends some understanding of why what I'm about to describe so pisses me off. And there is a issue that has come to light in Southern California. A woman named Anne Marie Devaney, her son was killed in a automobile fatality. She put up a cross, 2 crosses actually, on the spot, in the area where he was killed. They're not on the road. They're not obstructing traffic. But they are technically on public property. And I know Futurama is popular among atheists, as well it should be. It's a fantastic show. So, you remember the part where the one guy says, "You are technically correct, and that's the best kind of correct"? That's what's in play here. There has been this huge legal battle because some jackass is raising Cain over the fact that this cross was technically planted on public property. And so, of course, the AHA, which is the, asshole advocacy or whatever, American Humanist something association, they have been waging this legal battle. And I watched the news report, and you see this mother in tears talking about how watching the city come down and remove the cross is like, it feels like, her son is being killed all over again. She, And I can, I've never been in serious trouble with the law, and I hope I never am. But I can remember, I remember like being hauled into traffic court one time by a guy that I was claiming claiming I owed him a new bumper. Basically, it was a joke. I don't want to go into it, but anyway, I pled not guilty, and even though at the very worst, I mean, we're talking about. He was not even suing me directly in this case. It was I had to settle the ticket. I was charged with following too close, and I pled not guilty. And I'm handed paperwork that says, the United States the Georgia Municipal Court or whatever it was versus Jordan Owen. Then that's an ominous feeling. Even though we're talking about something that at the very worst would have been about a $50 fine, it's still ominous to know your court date is set. You are going to go into a court of law. You are going to be tried. You are going to be judged. You are going to have the law bear down on you in some way. That is not a good feeling. It is not a pleasant feeling. And this poor woman has to go through all of that and then has to see the memorial to her son torn down and has to see the memorial to her son torn down because some politically correct asshole got a bone up his butt. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, this, in its own roundabout way, this is a great argument for atheism because we are proving that the guy who had this problem, or the person who had this problem, and the American Humanist Association, we are proving here that they have no souls. Because, oh my God. The very idea, maybe this is a regional thing. I live in the South, and I see all of those, I see roadside memorials like that all the time. I drive by, I live within, if I aimed just right, I could probably hit about 3 churches with a rock from my apartment window. I mean, the thing is, I'm an atheist. And when you're in my house, no one is going to come into my apartment. No one's going to come onto my property and say, and start shoving religious values down my throat. That stuff stops at my door. But I got over it. I got over it a long time ago that other people out there are going to do things, are going to put up images in public where I can see them that offend me. That is just, it's kind of like, you really, the people who are behind this, I think they really don't understand the position they're taking. I think they're taking it from a position of like, I am, the establishment is this, and I am against the establishment. Therefore, I get to parade around and act like a dickwad, and the establishment has to suck it up and deal with it. No, freedom of expression goes both ways. And yes, you have your little law. But what you are saying, when you make a big fucking stink about this, what you are saying is that this woman's pain, her suffering, is irrelevant to your not being offended while you're driving. And if you can't understand that, then you are just a truly disgusting human being. This woman's a Christian. Her son was probably a Christian too, or at least raised in the church. This is how she chose to eulogize her son. The purpose was eulogizing her son, not evangelizing Christianity. It is unconstitutional for the government to spend tax dollars to put up a memorial that uses religious iconography. It is wrong for the government to force prayer in schools. It is wrong for the government to put under God in the Constitution, in the Pledge of Allegiance. It is wrong for the government to mandate the teaching of evolution in schools. All of those things involve the government forcing you, the private citizen, to do something. But even more so, it's wrong for the government to put the Ten Commandments on the courthouse steps. It's especially when the government only has the authority to enforce 2 out of the 10, and then it is wrong for the government to put a nativity scene up on courthouse property or on federal or state property, public property. That all of that. Those things are right. It is wrong for the government to do that. That is the government evangelizing Christianity. But the purpose of putting that there was not to hurt that cross there, was to remember this person that died. And, I've been looking at comments on this. I got into a Facebook argument on this. People say, well, there's other ways to evangelize, or there's other ways to remember, to memorialize her son. Oh, well, fuck you. Let's see you die. Let's see you lose a family member, lose a loved one. Let's see you lose one of your children. And see if you give a 747 flying fuck about being politically correct. And that's really what this is, political correctness, about being politically correct about the kind of memorial you want to put up. Let's say just whatever it is, for whatever reason, you put something up and some asshole comes up to you and says, we can't be having this now. That is cold and heartless. And when you people sit here and act like, oh, well, we've got the law on our side, there's a difference between, there's the old saying, just because you have the right to do something does not make it the right thing to do. Yeah, you have the law, but that is not a fumigator for your moral responsibility. That is not that does not replace your moral responsibility. It does not replace your moral responsibility or the reality of your actions. Yeah, just because you've got the law on your side does not mean that what you're doing is right. I mean, I get if this is the attitude you're going to take, that the law is automatically right, whatever the law is automatically what's morally right. If you're going to be Javert from Les Mis, then you might as well decide that smoking pot should be illegal, that you should stop campaigning for the repeal of sodomy laws. Obviously, that's morally right. It's morally right to arrest people for what they do in the privacy of their own homes because there's laws providing for it. How do you justify living the life you want to live when if you have ever smoked a joint, if you have ever driven over the speed limit, if you have ever played your music past the noise ordinance, how do you justify any of that if you cannot, on a human level, understand that while, yes, you do have the technicalities of the law on your side, what you are doing here is still morally repugnant. How do you justify? There's a book. I forget the exact number, but it's something like 15 a day, 15 felonies a day, or something like that. That there are so many laws on the books that we don't even know that most of us commit on average about 15 felonies every day, and and that, how do you justify not going to jail or not being prosecuted for every one of those 15 crimes you commit every day, when you champion this on the sole basis of, well, we've got the law on our side, so fuck you. And then, if that weren't enough, the most unreal, the most amazing, the only justification for this action that I've heard, trying to blank out, get around the fact that this is a cold-hearted, mean-spirited, utterly soulless, heartless, gutless thing to do. The only justification I've heard is, oh, well, we can't have people be distracted while they're driving. People could see that and be distracted while they're driving. Well, okay, I tell you what, why don't we just build big enclosures over every road in the country so that everybody, they can just drive through tunnels, they can never see anything that could possibly harm them. No, you know what? I mean, I was on Davis Arini's podcast the other day, and to Davis, I mean, he and I are friends. This is a polite disagreement between us, but it's relevant to the discussion. He was making the argument that, if a woman is walking down the street with her breasts visible, like if she's in a bikini top or something, if she's walking down the side of the road and a man sees that and crashes his car, she is responsible for what happened, because as a man, he is biologically geared to notice that, and so he can't be held responsible. Well, yet no, the responsibility is still on him to drive the car. We are not slaves to our base instincts. We are not slaves to our emotional or biological whims. Just like if I was if I saw something that made me mad, or I saw something that made me sad, or I saw something that made me glad, I would still be responsible for myself. And my actions, and that's how the law works. That's how we live in a free society, is that people take responsibility for their actions. Because, I mean, the down the road of that could be, well, the next logical step would be, well, if we need to, if women are that much of a distraction and men can't help it, then we need to do the burqa thing to keep that, keep women from distracting people. And I don't mean to sound vociferous towards Davis. It's a polite disagreement with us. But bringing it back into this spectrum, the idea, it is your fucking job to pay attention to the fucking road and drive the car correctly. And the idea is that's such a fucking lame argument. I mean, that is such a lame argument. Yeah, I saw religious iconography, and that's why I wrecked my car. That is completely idiotic. And it just shows that there's no, when people were taught, when I started reading that people saying, oh, it's about driver safety, I thought, oh, well, maybe the cross was protruding into the road in some way. Maybe it was a physical hazard. No, it's actually off the road, and it's we can't have these distractions while we're driving. Well, like I said, if not the tunnels, then we need to take down all the billboards. Because, we can't have people distracting you while driving that way. We need, when I wrote my book, Eros Empire, what ultimately happens by the third act of the book, and this isn't giving anything away, but it actually gets to the point where anyone can have anything they find offensive banned because they find it offensive. They want the right to not be offended. That is what you're doing here. You want the right to not be offended. And you think because you have historical precedents of previous court cases on your side that you're not being a complete fucking jackass when you do, when you do this. Think about something. This, when you say what you're doing, Ayn Rand, the famous atheist, was exactly right when Phil Donahue asked her, said, well, in Soviet Russia, in communist Russia, they're atheists. They're singing your song. You're an atheist. You say you're against that, but they're atheists. And she said, no, they do have a form of religion. They replace the state with God. They replace God with the state. The state, the ruling body, becomes their religion. She's absolutely right. And that's what's happening here. Think about it. Why do the really fundamentalist asshole Christians, why are they unwilling to give any ground on gay marriage? Because it says in the Bible that that's wrong. Period. That's as far as it goes for them. There's no deeper moral consideration than that. Bible says it's wrong. That's it. And I would hope that any atheist who's given it any serious thought would realize that that is a completely idiotic, irrational reason. Well, to be opposed to gay marriage, and so by that standard, those people, they have God's law, all right, or what they perceive to be God's law. They have what they believe to be God's law on their side, and for that reason they won't carry it any further. They won't stop and think, what kind of person does it make me to want to oppose two people who love each other being together or being married? Or what kind of person does that make me? What moral responsibility do I have when I take on the stance of depriving the rights of another person or supporting the depriving of the rights of another person? They consider themselves above that. Why? Because the fucking Bible says so. That is exactly what you're doing here. You're not atheists in this case. You are believers. You have taken the state and you have replaced God with the state, and are acting like because you have the law on your side, you don't have to give it any further consideration of what kind of person this makes you. And if you are the kind of person that is in favor, as an atheist, if you are in favor of what's being done here to this poor woman, and if you are okay with what's happening to her, but you are also in favor of gay marriage, I don't think you're in favor of gay marriage for the right reason. I don't think you're genuinely into it, genuinely supportive of it because you want two people who love each other, or more people, what have you. You want people you're not into it because you want people who love each other to be together, to have a union that's legally recognized. You're not wanting that. You just want to piss off the Christians and the Muslims and the whatever else that doesn't want gay marriage that you don't like. And that's what you really need to stop and think about. Am I doing this because I actually have these values, or because championing these values allows me to piss off the people I don't like? I support gay marriage because I believe that everyone should have the right to form a civil union with whoever they want. Ultimately, the ideal solution is for the government to be out of the marriage business altogether. The government should be in the civil union business. All relationships, it's not that we should have gay marriage, it's that we should have straight civil unions. That's the ideal libertarian response. But the better shorthand is gay marriage. But we need all people to have all of those protections, And if it means, if calling it marriage is necessary, and I think it is, then I'm totally for it. That's another matter for another video. I don't, if I'm an atheist, and I do not like religious iconography, but I am not one of these people who gets pissed off because, some people saw two crossbeams in the ruins of 9/11 that looked like a crucifix, and it gave them hope. Whatever gives them hope. Fine. It's kind of like the ongoing thing in Peanuts with Linus losing his, or everyone wants Linus to give up his blanket, and they recently made a movie about a Peanuts feature film about that, of people all the kids finally try to force Linus to give up his blanket once and for all, and he says, you know what, this gives me security. This blanket, this thing, whatever it is, this gives me security. This gives me peace of mind when I need it. Can any of you all say that you're above that? And that's absolutely right. Because as atheists, you need to stop and think that there is actual truth in the statement, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." Yes, that phrase is couched in religious meaning. It is so common. It is most commonly associated with the Christian earthly presence of the Christian deity. But it's true. Who the fuck are you to so prevail upon this woman? And that instance where Jesus fictitiously said that, that's exactly what we're dealing with here. They drag this woman in front of Jesus and say, she's working on the Sabbath, she's whoring herself out, this is all illegal, the law calls for her to be stoned to death. What do you think? And he says, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." Yes, you have the law on your side. But stop and think about what it will turn you into. Going in a completely different direction, but still with the same message. Friedrich Nietzsche said that when you go to dispel demons, you need to make sure that you do not turn into a demon yourself. And that's exactly what's going on here. You are being every bit as narrow-minded and closed-minded and intolerant as the Christians you purport to oppose. There's an episode of West Wing where this woman, they have this woman who is a very, very much a right-wing conservative, and that works in the White House, and she's arguing with Josh Lyman about gun control, and Josh Lyman's Bradley Whitford's character, and they're arguing about gun control. And she says, you don't actually have a problem with guns. Your problem is that you don't like the people who own guns. And that's absolutely right. Or that was absolutely right for that character. His real problem was not with guns so much as with his disdain for, Billy Bob country yokels and the uneducated, unwashed masses and all of that. And that's what's going on here. If you can look at that and override human sympathy for this woman and what she's going through, your problem is not with the religious iconography. Your problem is with the people who appreciate that iconography. And there is a very profound difference. And, I don't understand something. I get it. I get it that what this woman is doing is against the law. I get that it's against the Constitution. I get it. But here's the thing. She's doing the wrong thing for the right reason. And you all are doing the right thing for the wrong reason. You know, the American Humanist Association was established in the 40s, I believe. And, you know, on my channel, I rail against a lot of things, and one of the things I rail against a lot is feminism. And part of the problem is that, or one of my biggest, probably my biggest gripe with feminism, is that it has gotten to this point where it has gotten so petty and so silly and so infantile that it sullies the real issues that affect women. Problems about matters like abortion rights, reproductive control, birth control, all of that. All of those problems that really do affect women in third world countries who live in constant fear of death, all of that is smacked in the face by this bullshit first world feminism that goes around complaining because women are expected to wear high heels at formal occasions, or that it's currently popular to shave off your pubic hair. This is complete and utter malarkey. And that it is the same thing here. There are real serious issues to be focused on. You know, there are people who are trying to get prayer back in school. There are people who are trying to get evolution taught in school. There are evolution removed and creationism taught in school. There are people who are trying very hard and very passionately to get religious ideology adopted into law, move it around, get it around the Constitution, get it adopted into law, so that they can exercise religious control over society. Those people are out there, and it's good that we have organizations that are willing to go toe-to-toe with them and stand up to those kind of bullies. But in this situation, you are the bully. And you're going to go if you keep getting pissy about shit like this, you're going to go exactly the same road as the feminists, where you start out with some really important stuff, some really important goals, and some really important agenda, and then you just take a hard left turn into assholeville. If it was easy, convenient for me to get to where the site of where this happened, live on the other side of the country, but if I could get over there easily, I would go over there. I would put a cross down. There have been other people have been coming up and putting crosses down to protest. I would get that cross and put it down. I would make one, put it down, and it would have a message on it that said, I am an atheist, but removing this memorial is morally reprehensible. So, if you all out there who support this, if you have a heart, if you have a conscience, if you have a soul, stop and ask yourself, is this really the right thing to do? Or am I just being a complete, cold-hearted asshole